Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Shifa Asafira and this is my 14th video for Literall reading class. Let me begin. Teaching English to visually impaired students. An analysis of teachers' problem. This the aim of this study was to find out the teacher's problem in English teaching to visually impaired students. The participants of the study were two English teachers at one special school in Palembang, Indonesia. A qualitative research design with a case study method was applied in this research. Interviews and document analysis were conducted to gain in-depth information and understanding on the subject, while thematic analysis was used to analyze and describe the collected data. Triangulation and member checking were used to assess the trustworthiness of the research result. The result indicate the main problems incurred by the teachers in teaching English to visual impaired students were associated with time management, students' attitude and behavior, lack of instructional materials and equipment, and poor classroom conditions. Introduction. In Indonesia, English is intended to be one of the compulsory subjects in junior high school, senior high school, and universities. It is widely known that English is important for the most common reason that English is a global or international language. Lauder 2008. By mastering English, the student might improve their communication skills, widen their opportunities to study from various sources, and pursue their future studies and careers. Furthermore, R. Marzano, G. Marzano, and Pickering 2003 state that in teaching English as foreign language or EFL, teachers as the facilitator of student learning take a variety of roles within the classroom. Teaching English as a foreign language is a challenging task for teachers, especially to visually impaired students. Teacher is an essential source of a strength in the learning process of the students with visual impairments. Emily and Bemis 2012 state that teachers of students with visual impairments are qualified specialist teachers who have the skills and practical experience in the field of visual impairments. Their specialized skill and experience establish them as the best qualified individual to address the unique learning needs to visual impaired students. Additionally, Riley 2000 state that students who are visually impaired must be provided with appropriate instruction in a variety of subjects, including language arts, science, and mathematics. To educate them in this subject effectively, they must be taught the necessary skill to enable them to learn to read and use appropriate technology to access the obtained information. Literature review. Visual impaired students. Visually impaired is a disorder characterized by poor visual function that cannot be repaired by refractive corrections, glasses or contact lens, medical procedures, or surgery. The nature and degree of visual impairment may vary significantly, so each student may require individual adaptation to instructional practice and material in order to learn effectively. According to Ford and Norton 2002, Visual impairment refers to the function of the eye and can be measured with tests such as visual acuity, visual field, color vision, and context sensitivity. In addition, visually impaired manifests itself in a variety of ways, including photophobia, diplopia, contrast sensitivity, or impaired visual acuity, loss of vision, visual perception issues, visual distortions, or some combination of the aforementioned. Not all visual impairment are the same. The word visual impairment also may be used to describe as a consequence of an eye condition and disorder. Teaching English to visually impaired students. In teaching visually impaired students, teachers ultimately should be comprehend that students with vision impairment would face difficult kinds of holdbacks and way to learn English. Davis, 2003, claimed that teaching English to visually impaired students differs from teaching students from normal condition of eye. Visually impaired students cannot learning by seeing object, colors, sharp shapes, facial expression, book illustration, digital image, animals, landscape, skyline, architecture, transportation, and so on. Therefore, teachers who teach visual impaired students can be generally have much more control over learning environments, teaching research and strategies. Then they can hope to over the qualities and characteristics of the individuals they teach. Problem in teaching English to visually impaired students. Teaching English to visually impaired students requires several educational considerations to accommodate their special learning needs. Coaches and Samin 2018 mentions that there are several factors to consider that might be sire problems in teaching English to visually impaired students. There are as follows: lesson plans, time management, environmental issues, methodology, research design, participant, and the site of the study. This study was conducted by using a qualitative approach with a case study method. A qualitative research aimed at expanding phenomena based on the perspective of participants. A case study is used to describe a specific interpretation of phenomena as well as the context in which it occurred. In 2014, thus, a case study was appropriate to this research that focused on teachers' problem in teaching English to visually impaired students. The participant of the study were two English teachers at one special school in Palembang, Indonesia. Coefficient sampling was taken as one of purposeful sampling strategies to select the research participants that are easy to assess and inexpensive to study. The justification in selecting the participant were the teachers had to be permanent and had more than 5 years experience in teaching English to visually impaired students. We must the name of the teachers and research sites through the use of pseudonyms. For the names of the participant, we used AY we use AY and YS instead of their real name. Data collection and analysis. Interview and document analysis were conducted to gain in-depth information and understanding the subject of the study. Interview involved presentation of verbal stimuli and replay in terms of oral verbal response. In this study, face-to-face interview with the participant were conducted. The interview consists of 26 main questions that were derived from Kuchas and Samin 2018 and Brown 2001. The aspect obtained from these sources were about lesson plan, time management, and environmental issues that may influence the teacher's problem in the research site. Document is data source which provide the data in the form of words, pictures, or symbols. According to Griswell 2012, documents consist of public and private records that's qualitative research obtained about a site or participant in a study, and they can include newspaper, minutes of meeting, personal journals, and letter. The document in this research were all written information dealing with English teaching and learning activities such as teachers' lesson plans and syllabus. In analyzing the data, thematic analysis was applied. In this process, we had a read out transcription and started to code the data that were related to the search question of this study. The conclusion is, based on the result of this study, there were several problems that the English teacher had encountered in teaching English to visually impaired students. The main problem were associated with the time management, students' attitude and behavior, lack of instructional materials and equipment, and poor classroom conditions. This problem needs to be overcome or at least minimized to give optimal learning space and opportunity for the student with visual impairments to learn English. This study might over basic information of problem experienced by the teacher in teaching English to students with visual impairments. Further studies might be directed to investigate other problems and also the strategy to facilitate visual impaired students in learning English. I think that's all for my video today. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.